Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're doing some router table edge jointing. Now, not that long ago on the show, I had a viewer request that I demonstrate how to do edge jointing on a router table. But they didn't want to see any router table, they wanted it to be done on the Jessem Mast-r-Fence II. Which has special rails for jointing. So they requested to see that demonstration, and that's what we're going to do today. So the first thing we need to do, of course, is head over to the router table. Now, jointing can be done on any router table that has a split fence. And what do I mean by a split fence? It's one that has a gap here in the middle where the outfeed and the infeed are two separate plates. They're not joined together. So that is what we have here. And I'm going to answer another viewer question here while I'm on it. Someone asked me where the jointer rails store on a Jessem Mast-r-Fence, and they store right here. They just have a little kind of a dovetail there, and they slide right over top, and they tuck neatly in behind everything. So that is what we're going to concentrate on now. I'm going to pull out these, there's two of them, pull out two of these rails, and I'll show you what's involved in these. So the way that these rails work is there is a tiny little T-track in each one, and they provide two different offsets. The smaller side or more shallow T-track here provides a 1/32 of an inch offset, whereas the wider one here provides a 1/16 inch offset. So now you just need to decide which one that you want and make sure that you have both of your tracks aligned in that same direction. So if your small track is on the left, make sure that they're both on the left. If they're on the right, make sure they're both on the right, sort of thing. Make sure that your rails are identically placed. So the very first thing that you want to do is you want to loosen the outfeed table or the outfeed fence. Now, which one is that? It's this one. If you're standing in front of your router table looking at your fence, it will be the one on the left. The travel of the stalk is from right to left, so this will be the outfeed. So first things first, loosen it off so that you can get quite a bit of a gap in behind it. And because I have the Jessem micro adjust, it kind of gets in the way of this adjustment on this side. So that's no big deal. We can just use this Allen key and loosen it off. Now, if you look at our fence here, the extruded aluminum that we have, you will see two little nubs, one there and one there. T-tracks, or in this case, this would be the male section of it, which would act kind of like the T-bolt. But what you want to do is take your jointing rails and they will slide on to that little T-track receptacle there, all the way in, just like that. And then, once you get that done, you can tighten down your split fence. So with those rails in place now, our outfeed table should be proud of our infeed. And if we just slide a straight edge along there, we can see that it hits right there on our outfeed table. Now I have this set for a 1/16 inch offset. So that's what we're going to go with. At this point now, you want to install a straight cutting bit in the router. What I have here is a bearing guided flush cut bit. Now, you don't need a bearing guided bit, but I prefer them for jointing on the router table because it makes setup easier, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's get this installed in the router table and then we can set our fence up. Now, the reason that I like a bearing guided straight bit for this is because in order for jointing on the router table to be efficient, to make it work properly, your Outfeed Table, which is proud of your infeed table, has to be perfectly in line with your straight bit. So if you have a bearing guided flush cutting bit, your bearing is already perfectly in line with the cutting edge of your bit. So all you have to do is align this fence with a straight edge to your bearing, and you will be set to go. Trying to get it to go with the cutting edge can be a little finicky sometimes, so that bearing will really help you for an easy setup. And this as well for me is where this micro adjust on this fence really shines. You can really dial this in perfectly in a very short amount of time. Right there. I don't think it gets much better than that. So there we go. There is our bit now aligned with the outfeed side of the fence. Okay, so here I have a straight edge and I have the board that I want to joint. And if I put it up against a straight edge, you can see right here in this section, this is not even close to being flat. There's no way we could joint that or join it to another board. It's now time to run this through our jointer setup. Now, I've always said that when using the jointer, your pressure down onto the fence is on the outfeed side, and it's no different for using the router table. So in this case, I'm lucky enough to have some router stock guides, some Jessem router stock guides for the fence. And what they do is they keep down pressure as well as they draw it into our fence. So I'm going to allow those to put the pressure on the outfeed, and I'm going to hook up the dust collection and make a few passes on this board and show you the results. Okay, so that was 2 passes. And if we clear the dust here and line it up with our straight edge, look at that. Look at what a perfect, beautiful edge that is, all the way along. There isn't a bit of deviation from here. Now, that was with 2 passes at 1/16 of an inch per pass. You don't have to do 1/16. If you want to take off less material, those rails that we installed, reverse both of the rails, and you will get a much smaller 1/32 of an inch removed from each pass. But there you go. There is perfect edge jointing done with the Jessem Mast-r-Fence II. Now, as far as the capacity of this goes, for the thickness of the stock, you can joint any stock as thick as you like, provided that your bit will still have a cutting edge that can contact the edge here, because you need to raise the height of your bit just ever so slightly higher than what your stock is. So as long as you can get a cutting edge on the edge of your board, you can joint it on the router table. Now, I hear a lot of you guys saying already, oh my goodness, I need to upgrade my router fence. That is not true, not at all. If you have a split router fence like this, as I said, that has a separate board for infeed and outfeed, you can still do jointing on the router table. And just like I demonstrated in my original video, all you need is a 1/16 inch thick piece of anything. It could be metal, it could be plexi, it could be hardboard. It could be whatever you want, as long as it is consistently 1/16 of an inch all the way through. And all you need to do is double side tape it to your outfeed table. And all you've done by doing that now is you have replicated these spacing bars. And although it's really nice and sweet to have an expensive router table, to have those bars and to have that flexibility sort of thing, and to know that it's all done, you know, for you, it's a quick setup, don't discount it if you don't have this type of a setup. You can still do jointing. You just need to offset your outfeed fence just a little bit proud of what your infeed fence is. You also don't require the Jessem stock guides. Yes, I have them, so yes, I use them. But if you don't have them, all you need to do when putting your stock through is apply your inward pressure on the outfeed side of the fence. You know what? Let me do a couple passes to show you that, and we'll check the results of our jointing. Okay, here we have the other side of the board. Truth be told, I took a block plane and gouged out this center section so you can see the gaps that are here along the edge of our straight edge. So just to mark this side so you can see I'm showing you the same thing, I'm just going to put a couple check marks instead of the X's, and let's run this through without the stock guides. Now this one took 4 passes because it was so severely gouged with that block plane. But you can see here's our check marks. I actually ended up trimming some of them off. But if you look at how beautifully flat that is. Look at how straight that is. That is 100% perfect. I absolutely love it. And if you're looking to joint boards edge to edge, I'm telling you, this is the setup for you if you don't have a jointer. This will go a long way to helping you get perfect connecting joints every time. And there you have it. Edge jointing with the router table, in this case, the Jessem Mast-r-Fence II. Guys, jointing on the router table is one of those things that if you don't have a jointer, using your router table can open up a whole new world of projects and take you to that next level of quality in your work. How many times have you cut a board on the table saw, you put them together to join them edge to edge, and they don't quite fit? So what's the first thing that you do? Everybody does it. You crank down on the clamp a little more. Give it a couple more cranks until that pulls together. It doesn't work. Sure, it pulls together. Sure, it'll glue it. But eventually, with wood shift and that sort of thing, that joint is going to bust apart and crack the wood. It's inevitable. It's not a true joint. It's not a good joint. And it sure as heck isn't a quality joint. And that's what we're after here. By using your router table for jointing, you've enabled yourself to make panels that would not be possible otherwise without a jointer or without cranking down on that clamp. So if you haven't considered this, then try it. Honestly, try it for your next panel glue up. And I promise you, you're going to love the results. If you're getting a bit of tear out on your wood, that means that you've got too much of a pass. Your outfeed is too far from the infeed, and the bit that you're using is grabbing it and snapping that piece out. It's easy enough. Just back it off a little bit. Change the offset. Make it so that it's just a little bit less. That's all you have to do. It's as simple as that. But you really have to consider edge jointing on the router table as something that is just one of those things that if you want to do edge joining on boards, guys, this will take you to the next level. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week, and I want to thank you so much for your suggestion on this week's show. One part there of where to store these jointing rails, that was a question actually that was on another program, and somebody did request this with the Jessem fence, and I really appreciate your input and I appreciate your requests. So if there's something that you want to see on future shows, drop your comment down below. It doesn't mean that it's going to be next week, but it will be put into the list, and eventually I'll get to it. I have one heck of a long list. If you haven't already, guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell so that you don't miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to drop by my channel today and check out today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed the content. And honestly, guys, I truly hope that you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.